Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to this edition of The Final Whistle on LearMedia.tv. And our usual email, info@learmedia.tv, and tell all your friends about us. And indeed, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It's the red button on the bottom right-hand side, on the bottom corner. It's the only one anyway. You can't go wrong. Just press this free of charge and tell all your friends about us. Welcome along again, Derwynne Honan, to this edition.
Thank you, Pat.
Welcome, Carol Ashley, Carol G. Ashley. Carol, welcome along. Great to have you along.
Cheers, Pat.
Welcome, Dirk to Klein. And this is not a conspiracy theory. Dirk is from the Netherlands via Carberry and Limerick. So we put out our commiserations before we start.
Yeah, you see, there's no Irish can slag me anyhow because you weren't even in it to start off with. So, but hey, that's another question, another issue altogether.
Now, there's a lot to get through in sport. We generally look back of the events, what took our fancy. I sent out a general few points, but we can bring up anything we like. Obviously, we're going to start at the tournament that is ongoing at the moment. That's the Euro 2020 tournament, which is held in 2021. Just to confuse you totally. And as Dirk reminded me, the World Cup is on next year in a country that has no team, no soccer team. For people who would be interested in soccer, they have no soccer team, they have no club soccer, they have no stadiums either, none whatever, but they got the World Cup. So there you go.
Money doesn't buy anything, does it anymore?
When you think about that, Dirk, isn't that just incredible?
But it's a bit like Harry Potter's magic, isn't it? Kind of, phew, there we are. It's just wave a wand and it's done. But I mean, the same applies to the 2018 World Cup in Russia. I mean, it's all money and politics. That's what this UEFA and FIFA are both about nowadays. Anyhow, there's nothing, very little to do with the sports. Actually, the games are just a PR for the political side of UEFA and FIFA. Really, that's really what it is. But yeah,
And Derwynne, what do you think of that before we get on to the meat of the program about the World Cup being held? It's Qatar, isn't it?
Qatar, yeah. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, it's like Dirk just said, it's all about politics and money. It's not really about growing the game, is it? If it was growing the game, you'd never take it to Qatar, would you?
Do you think some of the best players won't travel there?
No, they'll all go. Money, again, they're getting paid. It's part of they'll be part of contracts that they've got with sponsors and Nike and their boot contract, and so they'll go. I mean, that's just what happens, isn't it?
And Carol, can you remember when you heard that Qatar had got the World Cup with no club soccer, no national team, and no stadiums? I mean, I know the first thought was, well, money.
Yeah, there's something fishy about moving it to the winter as well to accommodate
that's not
the weather. So there'd be a bit of discord there, but everyone's had plenty of time to get their heads around it. And I think, although UEFA and FIFA are very likely proven corrupt as organisations, there was a move to kind of be more inclusive of areas and regions. All right, nobody's suggesting they take it to Alaska, but the different continents are all strongly represented. Europe, South America. There was a World Cup in Russia, and they wanted to move it to the Middle East. Now you could probably suggest, Cairo or North Africa or maybe somewhere a bit more football friendly than Qatar, but it does seem a bit unusual that it was chosen that way,
Yeah, I suppose. Look, there's been so much said about it now, and as you rightly alluded to, Dirk and Derwynne, about the unfortunate, an awful lot of people have got killed in accidents in building these stadiums, and there's been a lot of horrific stories. But I suppose, look, that's for the authorities to work out. It's not that we don't pay attention to it, but it's very, very. The whole thing is very sad to me, anyway. That they would do these things and put money and profit before the health and well-being of both the professional players.
5,000 people have died already building the stadiums. 5,000. It's
Oh,
a small town wiped out in a way. And
Well, just half the population of Shannontown where I live.
yeah, I mean, just imagine that they would give Ireland the World Cup, but they had to build stadiums, and then half of Shannon would be sacrificed for it. That wouldn't happen, would it?
No, it would not. No, it would not. Now, the final whistle is the program we're going to move. That's an overview of the upcoming World Cup, because that came into the conversation because the
Switzerland have just scored against France, Pat.
Huh?
Switzerland have just scored against France.
Oh, have they? Oh my goodness me!
That's going to be interesting.
Here we go now. That puts the cat among the pigeons, so they say. We'll keep lads up to date here now. This is Monday.
The Shat.
Monday, the 28th of June.
Le Chat among les oiseaux.
The wazoo among the pigeons. Okay.
Swiss chocolate sales have gone down in Paris.
Since we met last Monday, an awful lot of the last 16 games in the Euros have taken place. And I'll go to you, Derwynne, first. Did you see many of those games between now and up to this evening? And if you did, which one did you enjoy actually looking at?
I think watching that first Italy game was really good. That sort of got you in the mood for the whole thing, didn't it? Because they were free flowing and going for it, and it was good. I've enjoyed watching Italy. So yeah. I'd say, obviously I'm a bit sort of biased towards one team, but if they could pull that off tomorrow night, that would be great.
Yeah, we get along to England and Germany tomorrow night. But Dirk, up to now, have you seen many of the games, Dirk, up to now?
I've seen several. I mean, of course, all the Dutch ones, of course, and I enjoyed most of. I enjoyed about 75% of them. Not so much one last night, but I agree with Derwynne that the first Italy match was good as well, and even the Italy Austria a few days ago, that was a nail biter really when you think of it, because it could have gone and any way. That match as well took Italy 120 minutes actually to pull it off, which I thought.
I think, despite what you might say before I come to you, Carl, I think Hungary, to me, put up a very credible performance for a team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Carl, what took your eye now in the first games? Did you enjoy?
The games that caught my eye, Pat, Ukraine and Holland for sure, and today Croatia and Spain was a cracker.
Yeah, that for people who mightn't have seen the game today, it wouldn't take extra time, did it?
I think England and Germany has the potential of watching paint dry if there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of nerves. But if an early goal, it could be a cracker as well, Yeah.
And where's England going to get the goals from against Germany?
Good
well,
question.
the goal's already there, Pat. They're already built down in the stadium. You don't have to get them at all, they're there, That's how it works. They're there, otherwise it would be no.
Slight difference, Dirk. We're making the German ones a bit smaller.
You were saying before the tournament, where were the Czech Republic going to get their goals from? I'd never heard of Schick, who's taken the Euros by storm. I think Ronaldo's the top scorer on 4 goals. Is he? Ferran Torres has 2 or 3. Lukaku has 3. Where's England's goals going to come from? Well, you have to look to the prodigious Man City players like Sterling and Foden, I guess.
I've been sitting here wondering when that's going to come out.
Jesus wept.
Did you like that, Jimmy? Did you?
I love the way, Pat, that you're placing the City fan and the United fan down at the bottom of the picture where they belong, alongside each other. So there you go.
But Jimmy, we'd love to see you as well. We can hear you all right.
I know. Yeah, I had fun and games bringing my machine up, and I took the camera off. The thing is telling me the camera is working, but I'll keep persisting. I'll show up eventually. Telling me the USB device isn't recognized.
Yeah, what we're speaking about is
I might try nipping out and come back in again, but
oh,
I don't know. I have to stay here to hear the bullshit from the lower reaches of the screen. You know.
Do you know what? I reckon his camera is working. He just hasn't put the light on.
You see, Jimmy.
No. Oh, I'm quite bright.
Jimmy, you say the lower region of the screens. To me, you're in that lower region, so you might be talking about yourself as well, then, I suppose.
yeah, when Jimmy's light went out many years ago, he's all right.
Oh dear me! Put some money in the meter, Jim.
Huh?
Put some money in the meter.
But Cal, we were talking about.
Isn't that typical of a Manchester United supporter? I'm on here. You can all see me. I'm registered, and the arsehole from London, Manchester United supporter, says I have no electricity. For God's sake, just goes to show, Carl, you're coming up ever so slightly in my estimation when I look to your right.
Anyway, Jim, we were talking about, did you get to see many of the games since we were together last? And if you did, what game did you really enjoy watching?
Tonight's was the only one, the Croatia-Spain game. Spain,
The belter.
to me, they didn't look like it until now. They were fairly pedestrian. But when they had to do something, they did it in extra time. Now, having said that, they should have won 3-1 because, sorry, Mary, I had money on the bastards to win 3-1. But, and imagine my shock when it went to 3-2 and my horror when it went to 3 each. But they did look to be capable of beating just about anybody. I haven't seen anybody who I would say they'd be my tip. Germany in the last group game looked good, but nobody has stuck out in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion. I wouldn't waste any more money betting on any of the teams. I have to admit, none of the games stood out. I'd say for fire in the belly, maybe tomorrow night's games might make a difference.
Now, we'll go around the panel here. Now, Dirk, tomorrow night, before we get back to the games tonight, tomorrow night we have England and Germany and Sweden and Ukraine. Now, Dirk, if you had to pick out two winners out of those two games, what would your gut be telling you?
My gut, all my wishes was England, Germany. You know, the Dutch, we have something with the Germans. We don't really like them that much. So I'm going for England there, even though I don't like the English team either. But it's choosing between the two evils. So I'm going for the lesser evil this time. So, but I'd say Sweden probably will beat Ukraine.
Yeah, and Carol, the tomorrow night match is England, Germany, and Sweden, Ukraine. What two will emerge, you think, from that?
No idea, Pat. You could toss a coin. It's like there's going to be upsets. There's going to be farm teams like France slipping on the banana skin. There's going to be great teams like Italy hitting, going out. I would like to see Italy go a lot further. I fancy them. I like Mancini. It's going to be impossible to pick a winner, but Spain, like tournament football is all about form. So on paper, you look at the France side and they're a great team, but do they put it together when the backs are against the wall in the 90th minute like Croatia did today? So, tournament football tends to be about form. Players come in and momentum counts for a lot. I could see Spain even doing something after today. England, Germany, toss a coin. No idea.
I have a feeling, though, and I said it before we started, that it wouldn't surprise me if it's a repeat of the 92. That Denmark might just do it again.
with
And-
the whole drama around Ericsson and that.
There seems to be something in that team, something like that just triggers something in them, and they just go for it. This actually this brings me back on the whole Qatar thing as well. If you look at, for instance, Ericsson, how he collapsed, and that was quite warm that day. Imagine the same thing now in 40, 50 degrees. There's going to be players dropping like flies during that tournament as well.
And Derwynne, if I had to ask you tomorrow night, now obviously England, Germany, and Sweden, Ukraine, you're 2 winners out of that.
I'm going to go England, Sweden.
Yeah, I suppose that would be the wisdom. All right, Ukraine are tough as well. On their night, they can be good. But
Where is that? The Sweden-Ukraine game? Where is it being played?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me now. Do I?
Is it Amsterdam?
Sweden, Ukraine are up in Hampden Park.
In Scotland.
Yeah. Sweden,
Interesting.
so we
Some
were
people
supposed to
have
have.
to move around quite a good bit and travel long distances, and some teams have been relatively untroubled that way. I don't know if it's a factor, you know.
And of course, England don't have to travel very far. They're in Wembley. Fair play to you, Jim. Look, we appreciate the trouble, the tremendous trouble that you took to be with us, and we appreciate it no end. Now, since we can see your
You
beautiful,
remind me very much of Sheldon in The Big Bang Theory. You have nothing like a handle on sarcasm at all.
Jimmy knows everyone here anyway. Now, Jim.
Hi guys, hi Dirk. Hi Carol. Long time no see.
Now, I was making the point before we came on here, Jim, that cynicism in soccer, I think there hasn't been a whole lot, but my number one cynical team so far has been Belgium.
Cynical team.
Yeah,
Why?
the way they behave, throwing themselves down to the ground, holding their foot that hasn't been kicked, and all the usual rolling over and antics like that. I thought it was appalling myself last night.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're the only one. I mean, the Italians are pretty adept at that as well.
And don't forget their opponent, Portugal. They won tournaments that way as well. So that's just again a bit of their own cake yesterday.
True. I'm not denigrating. I'm just on all the games I've seen.
Yeah.
I'm no expert. Of all the games I've seen, I thought they were the number one in cynicism. I'm not saying they don't have ability or they go on and win the whole thing.
You think that gives them the edge to go on and win it with the players they've got and the squad they've got if they've got a cynical edge to them?
Yeah, they've got the oldest squad, one of the oldest squads in the Euros, as we know, at the moment on the pitch. One of the commentators said that as well.
They are number one in the world as well at the moment. I mean,
they are. Yeah,
I know that FIFA is. I don't know how they make that up, but they are
number one. I was just looking back. I suppose you could be number one if you beat Gibraltar and Faroe Islands.
But that's it. Like,
no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true, Pat. Because we've beaten Gibraltar, and that didn't get us to number one. So that's it. And we beat Andorra, and that didn't get us there. No, I think Belgium are. If you look at the squad of players they certainly have the quality and depth to be certainly in the top 3 teams in the world. Whether they're a team or not, remains to be seen, because Croatia certainly looked very, very ordinary. But for 10 minutes at the end of that game, they looked like they were capable of beating anybody.
Don't forget Croatia got to the finals of the World Cup.
And don't forget it's a team game. So when you have a team of 11 world-class players, the odds are that if they click, they're going to go all the way. Pardon the pun about click, the guy who's scoring goals for fun. But I honestly, I wouldn't call anybody. I wouldn't ignore Belgium. If you remember, Pat and Derwynne, in the very early days, I did point out that I was quietly hopeful for Italy, because they are one of the few countries whose national team is made up by and large of players that play in their league.
Yeah.
And Belgium have a lot of players who only play together when they're playing for the national team, because they're in England and they're in France and they're in Germany and they're scattered all over Europe. Spain have a fair few players who play in their own league. And I think, and as I think it was Dirk said it earlier, I think Denmark could be a reasonably good choice as a dark horse team, because very few of those play outside Denmark. So they're a team who know each other. And as the competition goes on, nerves are going to take over. And I think it's like, and again, I said it a couple of weeks ago as well, it's very easy to look at teams who are doing exceptionally well, like the Holland game. When you're playing with freedom, you can beat anybody, and you play with freedom when you've got nothing to lose. When you get into a European Champions semi-final, all of a sudden you've got something to lose, and the casual play wanders out of your game, and the players tighten, and the whole lot. And again, I said it before, I think the pressure that's on England from the English press they mightn't do damage against them tomorrow night. I think they will. But as the competition goes on, the pressure on England is going to be tremendous. They're going to start making stupid mistakes. Guys who would normally take on a player like superstars like Raheem Sterling and Donkey Maguire, one for each of you guys, will suddenly start playing cagey, and that's not good enough.
Oh.
So.
And Carol, just go, have we seen the end of Gareth Bale as a serious soccer player now?
What age is he?
What age is he, Derwynne? Is he 30?
Mid-30s, 32, 33.
32, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're the Cristiano Ronaldo being an exception, kept himself very fit, 36.
Yeah.
The defenders can get away with it maybe a bit more. You look at Bonucci and Chiellini, Costa Curta, a few defenders in the past can maybe, goalkeepers especially, but forwards, strikers, once they kind of get to 32, 33, they're considered past their best.
Especially Carl, if part of their ability is pace, and certainly where Ronaldo is concerned, pace was a huge element of his game.
You could see he was off it.
You see someone like Modric tonight, 35, bossing the game until he could hardly stand at 35. But he's good for a game. He's good for 90 minutes. But not much more.
Bale's already lost his pace, though, hasn't he? You can see that.
Yeah. But Modric never needed pace.
He never had the pace, did he?
I think what Bale has lost is a desire. I think he doesn't give a shit what club he plays for anymore. I don't think he cares about anything about picking up a huge salary. And they were all saying is who's going to hire, who's going to look to buy Gareth Bale. And I don't think any serious European team will buy him. If I was his manager, I'd be looking for a sinecure out in China or the States, where his name will pick him up 2 years at 5 million a year or 3 years at 4 million a year, and let him just mark time. And I think that's all he's good for. He was never much other than a speed merchant, and he had 2 good years when he first went to Real Madrid. And after that, he started fading out. I don't think he can. I don't think he has the hunger to sustain that. Ronaldo has. Don't like Ronaldo. Sorry, Mary. Can't abide him. Arrogant little shit. But he always has the hunger and the attitude to keep playing all the time. And that's the big difference between him and Bale.
And Dirk will go first for this. Do you think that there's rumours online that Frank de Boer is going to resign? He's not long in the job, with the Netherlands. They call him Frank the Boring, as you know, in the press. But do you think he's not up to the job? Do you think he should just resign and do the decent thing?
I don't know. I think they might have to give him a bit more time because, all in all, he wasn't doing too bad, really. As I said, it's Koeman who I blame for things as well. Like he should have.
Yeah.
He went for the money, went to Barcelona, and he just.
Yeah.
Why couldn't he just stayed on for another bit? But I don't know. But I don't see anyone else coming in at the moment
No.
in that job.
Yeah.
So
now, Carol, for you that may not know Carol, actually, Derwynne and I think Derwynne didn't meet Carol before. Carol is a cricket umpire here now. Isn't that right, Carol?
My sins, yeah.
That would be a passion of yours as well. And of course, Derwynne, what cricket team would you follow now?
Middlesex.
There you go, Middlesex. So, Carol, what is the state of, just to turn that for a minute, because I grew up in Cork and we went down to the Cork Cricket Club in the Mardyke in Cork for years. That's the only place you could see cricket when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Played locally, and then my friends in Waterford, in Newtown in Waterford, we'd go as well to see them playing. But they always had some visiting things over, which, well, I always liked the game, not because you're on the programme tonight, because when I worked in London in the 70s, they had a cricket team in the factory, so you had a bash at it, which is good fun. But Carol, could you give us an assessment of Ireland have produced international cricket players, as we know?
Yeah, I think the state of Irish cricket in general is fairly good. There are positive signs. Cricket Ireland set out a mandate going back to about 2016 for where they wanted to see cricket in Ireland for 2021, 2022. And there's nothing really in Connacht, but the Northwest, the North and Leinster are very strong. Munster are like the poor relation. We go up to the Four Seasons Hotel in Monaghan for the Irish Association of Cricket Umpires and Scorers, and we're literally just making up the numbers. Munster, we're kind of forgotten about in the context, I think, of the overall scene. But having said that, within Munster, you've got a nice mixture, a nice balance of teams. Limerick have kind of become the top club. They've got 4 strong teams competing across 3 leagues. They've got a nice ground, which is currently being developed, and they've got a good sponsorship. And they're kind of sort of upsetting the aristocracy, which in a curious turn of things with Cork being the rebels, Cork County and Harlequins in Cork would be like the aristocracy of Munster cricket with, decent grounds, long-term clubs, resources, sponsors, and the likes of, say, Lismore. I know a few of the players in Lismore, which is kind of technically my local team here, being on the border of Cork, Limerick, and Tip. I'm going to umpire a few matches with Lismore this season. Clare, unfortunately, fell by the wayside. They couldn't get a field. But a lot of the passion for cricket comes from players themselves putting their hands in their pockets. You get the odd English and Irish, Aussie and South African, but for the most part, it's Muslims, Pakistanis, Indians, and guys that have come over to Ireland looking for a better life, a new life, and they've brought the passion for cricket with them. In Munster especially, the Cork team, except Cork usually have 1 or 2 foreign nationals, but they're mostly made up of Irish lads. But pretty much every other team is like Clare. We're a raggle-taggle brigade of all kind of cultures, creeds, nationalities, and the love for the game was what brought the guys together. And it's a pleasure to umpire some of the matches, especially when the pressure's off and the spirit of the game is good and the game's played in the right manner. But up at the top, the higher levels, the pressure to win is such that can be a bit of unsportsmanly behaviour. But by and large, it's a pleasure to be involved, Pat. And
before we leave that, Carol, I heard you saying there that in Clare, where I live myself, that they couldn't get a ground to play cricket on. That's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they lobbied the county council, and I lived in 6 Mile Bridge for 15 years, and if they needed a field for hurling, you'd get one like that. But what I liked about Cork was they had a very proactive attitude. So whether it was hockey, tennis, Gaelic, what I call football, what you call soccer over here, hurling, it didn't matter what the sport was, boxing, karate, they always had funds, resources, and a proactive attitude. But in Clare, unfortunately, the attitude towards cricket was not as positive, you know.
And
sorry, but just two quick things there. You might remember this as well, Pat. But first, by the way, Lismore is in County Waterford, not in County Cork, as you alluded to. And it's interesting that when
where it is, Jimmy.
when Prince Charles comes over here, he stays in Lismore. So that probably explains a lot as to why they have a cricket team. But I seem to remember, Pat, when we were on the radio back in, however long ago.
20 years ago.
On a sports program, we interviewed a number of Indian gentlemen who were getting a cricket team together in Clare.
Yeah.
And I seem to recall they had some success, but as you say, Carl, the issue was a ground. They just couldn't find some place to actually play. The mortal sin was, given that cricket is by and large a summertime game, they had a perfect venue available to them for summertime sport. And I mentioned it to one of them, they should go looking to try to get access to the Shannon Diamond Club. The pitch there is dreadful during the winter because there's no drainage, but it's one of the best playing surfaces in Munster when it's dry. And I don't know whether they applied or whether they tried to do anything on it. My last information was they had been reduced to playing on the all-weather pitch down beside the rugby ground. And that I very much doubt was even remotely suitable for playing. Which is sad. And when you think about it, Carl, the man who founded the GAA wanted the GAA to play cricket, hurling, and football in that order.
And cricket had a very strong tradition in Ireland before hurling.
Croquet as well.
Yeah,
Croquet
yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Dr. Cusick wanted to.
Good Irish players have gone over and made their living in England, as you know, Owen Morgan comes to mind there. He could have played. I think he did play for Ireland, did he?
If I recall, he played at, say, to the under-19 levels or under-17 levels, something like that. Very prodigious talent. Was obviously head and shoulders above his peers, and sought to change his environment to be in a, I suppose, an environment where he was being challenged by better players. But there's some kind of involvement. I'm not really. I'm quite apolitical myself. I don't get involved in the politics, but there's some kind of politics between the cricket in Ireland. I don't get involved in that. It's, at the end of the day, Waterford actually do now have a team in the Munster, as well as Lismore. Clonmel represented in amongst the Lismore guys. As I say, Limerick are very strong. Cork are very strong. Limerick made it to the final of a national cup competition, and you'd say on the whole things are looking promising for Munster cricket. For Irish cricket in general, they've always had very strong players and very good players, and they've been able to hold their own and compete at the upper levels against the likes of England and Pakistan for sure. But it'll always have the association of being quite a middle class game, or being quite a for the posh boys in England anyway.
Is that the way it is in England, Derwynne? Is it a game for posh boys?
I suppose it's still thought of like that. Yeah. I mean, when I was at school, that was a long time ago when I was at school, but there was massive London leagues and different things for schoolboy cricket, and all the schools played it. So I mean, we'd play my school would play in the Middlesex Cup, and Brent Cup and all sorts of. So he had borough and county cups to play in for as a school.
And Dirk, what about you? Have you an interest in cricket?
None whatsoever. I'm sorry to say, but
Ireland playing the Netherlands there last week or the week before, actually, in the one-day internationals.
yeah. Did they win?
Dutch have quite a good side, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard on the radio that it's, but I just
How's that?
it's because I don't know the rules.
Oh,
I think,
that's a shocker, Pat. That was a shocker. How's that? That was
The
a shocker.
the final whistle is the show here on Derwynne.tv. And we have an email info@derwynne.tv, and any comments more than welcome. We'll just quick. I'm just looking to talk. We'll fly through a few more things that happened over the weekend. Hamilton was beaten again in the Formula One by Verstappen. Verstappen, as you know, is from Belgium.
No, he's not. He's Dutch.
Oh.
He's Dutch, and actually, I know his father. He was.
You're listening. I did that on purpose.
He's actually from my neck of the woods. I know his father. So
his father was Josh.
Yeah, and he was useless in the Formula One, by the way. His son seems to be doing much better than his father, because Jos Verstappen always blamed everyone and everything except for himself, and which I always thought was a bit rubbish.
Well, he's doing well. He's young enough, and he's won the last 2 races now. And I mean, Hamilton, in fairness to Lewis Hamilton, he's been the outstanding driver in Formula One for last 5, 6, 7 years. Derwynne, did you get to see any of that race over the weekend?
I didn't see it, but I was looking at the results. I mean, he finished 35 seconds behind Verstappen, didn't he?
Yeah.
And now in the press, he's moaning like crazy that his car's not good enough. And
yeah, there's a lot of moaning. All right, Jimmy, did you get to see any of it?
No, Formula One leaves me absolutely cold. It's only marginally more exciting than the Indy 500, which is a crowd of arseholes driving cars around in a circle, which would, as far as I'm concerned, counting sheep is much more exciting than watching any type of motor racing, because to call yourself the best driver in the world when you get into a car that's costing millions per lap and you've got guys in your ear telling you what to do, I just don't see any sense in it. I really don't. The only thing attractive about it is the females who hold up the support signs in the pits. They're worth watching, but you can keep the rest of them.
do you know the sport you should watch, Jimmy?
Sorry?
The motor racing you should watch is British touring cars.
Or stock car racing. Anything with a little bit of individual skill in it, maybe.
They're actually nudging each other all the time.
Oh, really? Oh, you're talking about the cars. You're not talking about the girls in the pits. Okay.
No.
Oh, no. And
Calm
Carol,
down.
Keep it
Calm
clean.
down.
Keep it clean, lads. Come on.
do you have any interest in the Formula One, Carol?
Not really. I think when it had characters like Ayrton Senna, rivalries.
Yeah.
I probably fall more towards Jimmy. I had a mate that I lived with in Leeds, and he explained it to me one time, all the subplots and all the constructors championship and driving, and even then I still struggled to find it all that interesting. At a push I could force myself to get interested, but not really.
Now, Derwynne, over the weekend we had as well, we 3 tournaments I was following myself, and Mr. Hovland from Norway won the BMW International. But as we were saying before we came on air, I'm not a golf expert, but that came as no surprise to me, because his form has been good in the last couple of tournaments. He's been up in the top 15, top 20. But I think Padraig Harrington was talking about him one time. I think he'd be a good bet for the Ryder Cup at this stage, would he?
Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he's been featuring, but I mean, again, he's come straight out of college. You know, these guys in the golf scholarships in America on these golf colleges, I mean, they're they're coming out and they're ready to win straight away. I mean, that wouldn't have happened 10 years ago.
And Harris English, of course, won the Travellers in America.
Yeah, he won that in the playoff, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. And Nelly Corder won again. We were talking about Corder family. Nelly Corder won again. She won her first major, but she had won a tournament last week as well in the ladies' PGA. Did you get to see any of that?
I didn't watch any of that, but she's coached by a mate of mine, Jonathan Yarwood.
Go away.
Yeah.
Jonathan
Yarwood coaches her. He's actually in the UK at the moment, so I might try to say hello to you guys next week.
Got to be great to say hello to him or to her, Nelly Corder. But our own Leonie Maguire finished in the top 20, I think, as well, which was very good for her. Her first major.
Yeah, she finished 15th.
Yeah.
And you've got this other lad who's just come out of nowhere as well, Niall Kearney.
Niall Kearney's from Dublin.
He did well too, didn't he?
I wouldn't say he came out of nowhere, Derwynne. He played in the Pro-Am, a Pro-Am competition in Shannon, I'd say mid-90s. Niall Kearney's around a long time. He doesn't look it, but Niall Kearney, and he's been knocking on the door. He's been to the tour schools more often than I've been to the pub, really. And that's saying something. But he's around a while, but he has been knocking on the door. Solid player.
Yeah.
And Seamus Power was in the Travellers. He finished pretty well up in the top 15 or 20 as well, as far as I know, in the Travellers Championship.
As in Seamus Power?
Seamus Power from Orford, yeah.
19th.
Yeah. He was good too. Now, Dirk, are you interested in rugby? Who's hands up for the rugby? We'll just touch on that before. The Lions played Japan. Well, I suppose you could call it a match, all right. I don't know what it was. It was a leg stretcher before this. Yeah, do you know what? I don't want to be coming across as cynical, and because I'm not a cynical person. But to me, this idea of the Lions is utterly outdated. It has no interest, as far as I'm concerned. It's purely a commercial adventure and a holiday. What do you think, Derwynne, of that?
I disagree with you there. I think the Lions is fantastic. I mean, it's probably lost a little bit from when you were a boy, Pat, but it's still amazing. I mean, when you've got players who are standing there saying it's one of the biggest achievements they ever make in their career, I mean, that's not commercial in rugby because they hardly get paid, do they? I mean, they get paid, but they're not in the Football League, are they?
No. That's a fair point.
One thing that puzzles me though with this Lions tour at the moment, I think they were supposed to play the Springboks next, but the whole team is in self-isolation. So how is that going to work out? I don't get that. The two of them.
It's worse than that, Dirk. Not only are they playing South Africa, they're going on tour in South Africa, so they're going to have to travel down there. Whether they're going to be able to play any games, beggars belief.
Well, they arrived in Johannesburg today.
Yeah, they left this morning, didn't they?
Yeah, but who's going to be able to play them? I mean, if they're
Conor Murray's the captain now, isn't he? Conor Murray is
captain.
Conor Murray, yeah.
But the fact that the team they play next are in self-isolation, they're not supposed to play. How are they going to play? Are they going to use the PlayStation or something? I don't know.
I don't know. I think they'll play. They might play on the Zoom like we're doing tonight. We can be everywhere.
They've got two regional matches, haven't they? And that is it. I mean, it's a much shortened tour than what they normally would go for.
I think
they're not playing. Surely they're playing tests.
Yeah, they got
playing 3 tests against.
They got 2 regional ones and then 3 tests.
Now
they play like 12 matches, don't they?
Yeah. And Carol, have you an interest in the rugby?
My brother and my father both played rugby union. Having spent a lot of time in Leeds, it was more rugby league up there than rugby union. I myself never really played it. Never really took an interest in it. No. As the cricket and the football would be my thing.
Right, and we touched on Wimbledon, big stats. I don't think there's much interest in tennis around this table, but look, everyone for their own. And the
There was an
tournament.
Irish fella said to me once, Pat. He said football is a gentleman's game played by hooligans. Rugby is a hooligan's game played by gentlemen, and Gaelic football is a bousies game played by bousies, whatever that meant.
And we'll touch on the hurling. We'll come back to the soccer before we finish. The hurling over the weekend, I suppose, Jimmy. The big winners are Clare, Dublin, and Wexford.
I'm going to go now. I have to finish early.
That's okay. But you notice how I saved your blushes. I said the big winners were Clare, Dublin, and Wexford.
As long as you only talk about the winners, I'm fine. I'm happy with that. I tell you something for nothing. I mean, it was certainly of the first game, the Clare game. I would say at half time, Liam Sheedy was calling around to all his lads and saying, "Listen, don't worry about anything, lads. We'll be playing in the Munster final sometime late July, because the two teams in Semple Stadium aren't going to give us any trouble at all in the next round. Neither of them. I mean, Clare should have won by 10 more points. But if you can't score 10 points when you're able to go where you like all over the pitch, it's very, very worrying. Clare still have the problem. Now, unless when O'Donnell comes back, he might make a difference. But without Tony Kelly, Clare are very, very little when it comes to getting points. And certainly Tipperary won't give him anything like the latitude he got yesterday. Definitely so.
But
I think Watford were being clever. I think they're far better off to come in through the back door.
I think they are, because they have 4 top-class hurlers who were nowhere near the team, in fairness, and that's a huge loss to a county like Ward.
It's a big chunk, it's quarter of your team, more than quarter of your team.
Anyway, we won't neighbour the point. We look forward to next week when my own county will be in action against Limerick next Saturday night at 7 o'clock. It's on Sky, by the way, Derwynne.
Watch it.
Cork and Limerick, because we'll expect you to give a full account of it next Monday night on the show.
I'll explain everything to you, like all these guys running around with cricket bat-shaped things.
So, the Tour de France, as I said, is going. Now, just before we finish, we'll get back.
Is it called the Tour de France, or is it called the annual Junkies on Bicycle Festival? I forget. Did they rename it recently? I don't know.
Carol, what way is the match going? Have you any update on the match between Switzerland?
1-0.
Yeah.
1-0 half time.
Seferovic, after 15 minutes, puts Switzerland in front. And France, the big stars, Pogba and Mbappe, have not turned up so far.
Big star.
I know, that's
looks like they're going to be out of Belgium's next match against Italy. So that side of the draw would open up for either England or Germany by the looks of it.
It could, and it'll.
Germany or England aren't on that side of the draw.
No, England over the other side. England, if England win,
England on the other side of the draw.
England,
as usual, got the soft draw. They're over there. They've avoided Spain, France, Italy, Belgium, all the decent teams. They only have one hard team, and they're playing them tomorrow night.
No,
really. So,
and they're playing at home all the time.
What?
Oh,
and they're playing at home all the time. Yeah.
Now England are playing. If England win tomorrow night, they'll be playing Denmark in the semi-final.
No, they have to pass the quarter-final first, Pat.
Well, yeah, but I'm giving them that. So it could be Denmark, England on one side, and Italy and Spain on the other side. Anyway, I'm going to predict an Italy-Denmark final, lads.
But on this whole tournament, something I noticed though, and this shows you again the political side of the UEFA. All the teams, they want to do well. They all played at home for the first, at least the first round.
Really?
England did. Germany did. Italy did.
You're not you're not implying, Mr. Klein, that football authorities fiddle things so that they'll make more money and benefit hugely from the competitions that are going on?
No,
That,
I'm not implying it.
Isn't it far nicer to spend 3 months in the sun in Qatar than it is in the winter in St. Petersburg?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm not applying it,
And of course,
Jamie.
the Arabs will pay you far more.
But I'm not applying it. I'm stating as a fact.
Do you think that multi-city concept worked? Because I personally don't.
Absolutely disgraceful. Some teams were travelling to. Yeah. I mean, even Wales had to travel to Baku, where England had to travel 50 feet down the road.
Yeah. I mean, St. George's Park to Wembley is a long way down that M1.
Sorry?
St. George's Park to Wembley is a long way down that M1. Especially if playing at home.
I suppose so.
It gets bottlenecked round Hendon in the North Circular.
I suppose Raheem and the donkey having to travel down the M1 and having to get past Spaghetti Junction in Birmingham. That's a major hassle for them. Once.
Do you know what's interesting as well, though? You know,
to stay in a big hotel.
Sterling grew up in Wembley. Saku grew up in Greenford, and those two there are like I think they're treating it as though they're like they've come playing in their own backyard again, like kids.
I just want to pour a bit of cold water on this, Derwynne. We're talking about Germany here. If England always freeze, it's against the Germans. And if it goes to penalties, you'll be hiding under the sofa because, you know,
I won't.
No, do you know what?
Anyone talking up England's chances, any Englishman talking up England against Germany's looking for a hiding, like, you know?
No, I'm just.
You see, I don't mind England beating Germany now tomorrow, but I don't want to win them the whole tournament because you'll never hear the end of it. I mean, they're still talking about 1966. Like, and imagine if they win this for the next 30 years. Every single day on the BBC or whatever you hear.
Dirk, where'd you get up at your 30 years? 1966 was nearly 70 years ago.
I know, whatever, but no, I mean going forward, if they were.
Oh yeah, 30 more years. Yeah.
Look, Derwynne has his own plate full now for next Monday night. He'll be doing a complete analysis on the final whistle on the Cork Limerick Munster semi-final next night at 7 o'clock on Sky. But lads, this has been another edition of the final whistle here on Monday night, and I'd like to thank Dirk Klein, Derwynne Honan as usual, James O'Brien, and Carol. Thanks very much for your time. We'll definitely catch up with you all again very soon. For this edition of Final Whistle, for myself, Pat, until we meet again. Good evening, guys.
And you can send the check to my regular address, by the way. This is fine. My home address again. It's fine.
He can't send you any more checks. They're too busy playing soccer tonight.
No, that's fine.
That's what you're moaning about. The Czechs knocked you out.
And that's it.
The Czechs knocked out the Dutch. Yeah. Sour grapes. Really sour.